In part 37, we left off with reading the jail logs and finishing those up, so getting straight into part 38. This is going to be from the Office of the District Attorney Michael Rourke, and it is dated October the 5th, 2018, Defendant Chris White. And it reads, on October the 4th, 2018, an appointment was scheduled to execute the Rule 16 court order. In the instant case, I reported to the Weld County Detention Facility reception area at 1:50 p.m. Present was Weld County DA Investigator Dan Boyle, Detective David Baumover, Aaron Koning, and Kaylee Henson from the CBI and Public Defender's Office, Investigator Sylvia Martinez. We were escorted by Weld County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Hettinger to a pod in Unit 9 of the facility. Upon arrival, the defendant was present in the open area with 2 additional Weld County Sheriff's Office deputies. Ms. Martinez conversed in private with the defendant for approximately 5 minutes, and then the collections began. I first collected a Polaroid photograph. I then put on a new pair of latex gloves to collect the buccal swabs. I opened the sealed package of swabs without touching the swabs and gave them to the defendant, and then instructed Ms. Martinez that the defendant would need to insert the swabs in his mouth and scrape the sides of his cheeks. The defendant complied. The process was repeated with a second set of swabs. Upon receipt of the swabs from the defendant, I placed each set in a divided cup container to allow it for air drying. The container was placed on a table and was not disturbed during the pendency of the proceedings. I then proceeded to collect photographs of the defendant's hands. Of the photographs taken, 5 were out of focus. There were a total of 16 hand photographs taken. All photographs will be provided as attachments to this report. I then collected a 10-print card and requested the defendant be allowed to wash his hands. Once that was completed, I collected major case, hand, and palm prints. I again requested the defendant be allowed to wash his hands. The collection of the defendant's footprints were completed by CBI personnel. While the CBI personnel were collecting the footprints, I began cleaning the table area where the prints were collected. After that was completed, I obtained a new pair of latex gloves and indicated to Ms. Martinez that I was going to package the buccal swabs. I placed the first set of swabs, cotton in first, in a small envelope, broke the sticks, and closed the envelope. The same was done for the second set of swabs. Both envelopes were then sealed with evidence tapes and placed in a white envelope. The remaining stick portions that were placed in the same white envelope and the envelope sealed with evidence tape. During the entire collection process, there was no conversation had with the defendant, other than for instructional purposes. The collection was completed, and the defendant was escorted out of the area. Investigator Boyle, Detective Baumover, and I returned to the Weld County DA's office. I scanned the print cards, Polaroid for discovery, and packaged the documents in K-Pack, sealed and signed package, and turned it over to Detective Baumover. The scanned documents will be attached to this report for discovery. Realizing that I did not initial date the individual packages containing the buccal swabs while at the Weld County DF, I removed the individual sealed envelopes from the white envelope, dated and initialed the sealed packages, and placed them in a new envelope, along with the swab stick remains. That envelope was then sealed, dated, initialed, and turned over to Detective Baumover. End of report. Kathy Holscher, investigator. And this is going to be the photos. And as you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they are blurry. The middle one, 2, 1, 3, 4, is going to be the only one that's really clear, as they had mentioned above. And then this is others, and then more. And if you'll notice with his hands, he has them on a table that has checkers. Well, there's also a photo of him taken at this same time. And this will be the photo. Kathy Holscher is the one that took this photo, and it was taken on October the 4th. This is going to be Chris's fingerprints, and this is going to be a full-on handprint of his right hand. Now, I can take, if you're on a computer, you can do this, or probably, definitely not on your phone, but I can take my hand and put it up to this very handprint, and I'm not sure, this probably is not actual size, but because it's on a piece of typing paper. However, Chris's hand doesn't look that big to me. And there was also something else that was pointed out about this scar right in between his ring finger and middle finger. Now, I can't remember what that was, but I do remember it's been a while back, there was people trying to find the hand that had this in the middle. I can't remember what it was, that they were so adamant about this and this scar in between these two fingers. And I remember that they were looking at Nicole's hands to see if it had that area there, but I can't remember what it was about. But anyway, Chris has got it, so whatever it was about, obviously Chris has that in between his ring and middle finger. And maybe some of you remember what it is I'm talking about, because I don't remember why they were looking for that. Also, there was talk about the size of the bruising on Shanann's neck. People were like, well, it was just too small to be a man's hand. It looks more like a woman-sized finger. Well, that's quite possible. I'm not going to say it's not. At the same time, you see Chris's hands, to me, doesn't look that big. His fingers doesn't look very big. My husband could do this print and it would look like a bear paw. I wear a size 4.5 ring fingers, and he wears a 13. So definitely he has big hands. Chris's hands just doesn't look that big to me. And I'm not saying anything against anyone that's ever, said that that's a lady's finger from that bruise on Shanann. I don't know. But I am saying that Chris's hands are not that big. They don't appear to be very big to me, or his fingers. Okay, going on down. This is going to be the envelope. This is going to be Chris's left hand. And again, to me, it just doesn't look like he has very big hands. Okay, and the envelope again. Okay, this is going to be from the Office of the District Attorney, and it is dated October the 4th. And it is Attention Records Department request for copy of court file. Please consider this a request for a copy of the court file. Reference the above case number. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me. Kathy Holscher. Okay, it says on August the 24th at 9 a.m. in the Weld County Court, if an answer is not filed, the court may be asked to enter judgment against you set forth in the complaint. Okay, this is, again, part of the HOA fees that they were being sued. A copy of the complaint against you and an answer form which you must use if you file an answer or attached. If you do not agree with the complaint, then you must either go to court at the date and time and file the answer stating any legal reasons you have why the judgment should not be entered against you, or file the answer with the court before the date and time. When you file your answer, you must pay a filing fee. If you file an answer, you must give or mail a copy to the plaintiff or the attorney who signed the complaint. And plaintiff complains against the defendants Chris and Shanann Watts as follows. The amount claimed herein does not exceed $15,000, exclusive to interest and cost. The amount claimed from defendants is $1,533.80, together with proper interest, costs, attorney's fees, and any other items by statute or specific agreement. Defendants are the owner of record of real property known as 2825 Saratoga Trail, which is subject to a certain declaration attached as Exhibit A. Defendants are indebted to the plaintiff for non-payment of assessments and other fees pursuant to the declaration attached as Exhibit A. So they actually owed, with the late charges through June the 22nd, $683.80. The attorney fees was $650, court costs $200, which put them being sued for a total of $1,533.80. plus $54 a month for assessment late fees of $15 each month. Therefore, plus post-judgment interest at the rate of 18% of the declaration, plus additional attorney's fees in a responsive pleading is filed, and post-judgment attorney's fees and court costs. The defendants are not in the military service, and in support of this statement, plaintiff states that, to the best of the plaintiff's knowledge, defendants are engaged in civilian pursuits. A jury trial is not demanded. Dated June the 22nd. Okay, and I believe this is going to be Exhibit A that they were discussing. This is the master declaration. So I think this is like a contract that they had to sign when they moved into the Wyndham Hills subdivision. I'm not going to read this because it's basically, I believe it's just going to be like a contract, yes, and telling them what they have to do in the neighborhood and how much their fees will be, and that they will have the late charges and all such as that. If you want to read this contract, feel free to pause at any time and just read what you want to of it. I'm not going to read the whole contract because I think it's just a basic contract that you would sign, kind of like a lease, and it's called HO. And as you see here, I hereby certify that I mailed a true and correct copy of the foregoing notice of corrected time by depositing same in the U.S. mail postage prepaid thereon on July the 12th, Shanann and Christopher Watts. And this is where Shanann did receive her copy of this summons. It must have been hand delivered, because it says, I, Shanann Watts, acknowledge receipt of this summons, and it's dated June the 30th, 2018. So they actually got back from North Carolina on the 29th. So the very next day, Shanann and Chris were hand delivered these summons, because here's Chris, they both signed for it on that day. And I feel like had they have sat down and talked about this and tried to come to something, because this is the same day, or roughly the same day. It was either this day or the day after that Shanann actually called their realtor, Ann Meadows, and about putting their home on the market. You know, they said they wanted to downsize. However, most of Shanann's friends, and this was already something Shanann was wanting to do as well. She had mentioned it to her friends while she was in Arizona. This is in their interviews. But she told them the reason she wanted to move was because that Chris had got word about them putting more oil things closer to their home. So that's why Shanann had told her friends that yes, they were going to sell and they were going to downsize, but that was why they was selling, was because of the other oil situations that was going to be put in close to their house, and they weren't comfortable with it. But it was definitely something her and Chris had discussed. Okay, going on down. This is dated October the 4th of 2018. And this is the District Court of Weld County in the matter of Shanann Watts. Matter comes on for a telephone hearing. Appearing by telephone is petitioner Franklin Rzucek Sr., other interested party Sandra Rzucek, other interested party Franklin Rzucek Jr., other interested party Christopher Watts, co-counsel for Mr. Watts in separate matter Kate Harold present with Mr. Watts at the jail, and John Walsh appears and is seated in the courtroom gallery. DA Michael Rourke seated in the courtroom gallery. Parties agree that there is not a will. Mr. Watts does not object to the appointment of Franklin Rzucek Sr. as the personal representative. Miss Sandra Rzucek does not object to appointment of Franklin Rzucek Sr. as personal representative, and Mr. Franklin Rzucek Jr. does not object to the appointment of Franklin Rzucek Sr. as a personal representative. Court will appoint Frank Rzucek Sr. as personal representative of the estate. Court to enter written order of appointment by PR. Certified letters to issue. Court vacates non-appearance hearings of October the 10th, 2018. Copies of orders and certified letters will be sent by mail. Matter adjourned. Okay, and this is going to be the paperwork where the petitioner is the father, Frank Rzucek Sr., the descendant, Shanann Watts. She died on 8/16/2018. The venue for this proceeding is proper in the county because the descendant had his or her domicile or residence in this county on the date of death. The petitioner has not received a demand for notice of filings or orders and is unaware of any demand for notice of filings or orders concerning the descendant. Okay, I want to say something right here. Okay, and I know that, this is how it is, and before you even tell me, I'll tell you this. I know the reason her death certificate, which I've never seen her death certificate. I'll go ahead and say that. To my knowledge, no one has seen the death certificates except the Rzuceks. Quite possibly the Watts, but I don't know. But I know that nobody in the true crime community has seen them. And if they have, then it's somebody in the true crime community that I'm not aware of. That said, it says Shanann and the kids died on the date they were recovered. And that has always bugged me, because Chris told them when they were deceased, when they passed away, he told them that. And that is what he was charged with, was what he told them. Now that said, I know that the 16th is when their bodies was recovered. And I'm well aware that the coroner would determine time of death, when he gets to the body, and he sees that they are deceased, and that's his records. I understand that. However, in most situations, after the body has went to autopsy, then an autopsy, the forensics and the matter of decomposition and, other things, they actually get a closer and better idea of a time of death through the autopsy. So all that said, why does it continue? And as you see, this is dated September the 25th. So, obviously, that is what is on the death certificates as well. Why wasn't the death certificates changed to a more approximate time of death? We know that, obviously, the 16th is not correct because that is when they were recovered, correct? So, I don't understand why the one that performed the autopsy, why all of that wasn't changed, because in most cases it is. And a lot of times they can be almost significant in when a possible date of death was. You know, and this had happened 3 days prior, so it looks to me like they could have came up with a closer scenario other than just leave it on the date of recovery. I mean, Chris even told them it was the 13th was their dates of death. However, they've chosen to leave it the 16th, the date of recovery, as being the day they died on. And that has always really bugged me. I may be the only person out there that's ever had any kind of issue with that, right? And it's possible, but that has always bothered me. It really has. Because by the 16th, you know, they had already been deceased for 3 days. According to Chris, it was the 13th. And that is what, you know, he was charged with, was what he did on the 13th, the morning of the 13th. So, anyway, that said, that's always bugged me. Maybe no one else has even thought about it. Maybe no one else even knew it. But it's always bugged me really bad. Okay, moving on down. Also checked in this motion is number 6. It says the court has appointed a personal representative and no such appointment proceeding is pending in this state or elsewhere. Okay, number 8, yes and no's. Did a spouse or partner in a civil union survive the descendant? Yes. Did the descendant have a surviving parent? Yes. Did the descendant have surviving children or other descendants? No. Does the descendant's surviving spouse or partner in a civil union having surviving descendants who are not descendants of the descendant? No. Are all of the descendants, surviving descendants, also descendants of the surviving spouse or partner in a civil union? No. Are any of the descendants children, minors? No. That was a mouthful. Okay, coming on down, it says list the name and addresses of the descendant's spouse, partner in a civil union, children, or other heirs as defined by the Colorado law of interstate succession. And it says Chris Watts, Weld County Jail, spouse. Frank Rzucek, father. Sandra Rzucek, mother. And Franklin Rzucek, Jr., brother. Petitioner is 21 years or older and nominates himself to be appointed as personal representative. Coming on down, statutory priority. Persons with prior or equal rights to appointment are as follows. Chris Watts, Sandra Rzucek. The basis of compensation has not yet been determined. No interested person demanded that bond be filed. Unsupervised administration is requested. After noticing hearing, the petitioner requests that the court determine that the descendant died without a will, determine the heirs of the descendant, and formally appoint the nominee as personal representative to serve without bond. By checking this box, I'm filling in the blanks and not changing anything else on the form. And it is signed September the 25th, 2018 by Franklin Rzucek Sr. Okay, going on down here, it's just the paperwork again. Franklin Rzucek Sr., September the 28th, 2018. I declare under penalty of perjury under the law of Colorado that the foregoing is true and correct. And Franklin Rzucek Sr. And this is more of the same, except this is signed by the notary. Okay, it says a hearing without appearance on the petition for adjudication of intestacy and formal appointment of personal representative. And of course it's signed off by Mr. Rzucek. More of the same. This is the ones that she is survived by: Chris, Sandra, and Frank Jr. They were also parties, and they also gave their consent that they did not object to Frank Sr. being appointed her personal representative, since she had no will. Upon consideration of the petition of adjudication and formal appointment of personal representative filed by Frank Rzucek Sr., the petitioner, on September the 25th, 2018, the court finds, determines, and orders the petitioner is an interested person and has filed a complete and verified petition. The descendant died on August the 16th, 2018, and 120 hours have elapsed since the descendant's death. The descendant resided in Frederick, Colorado. Venue is proper in this county. The petition was filed within the time period permitted by law. Any required notices have been given or waived. The descendant did not leave a will. The prior informal finding as to testacy is set aside. The heirs of the descendant are Chris Watts, Frank Sr., Sandra Rzucek, and Franklin Jr. And this is the motion that he filed to be awarded the personal representative for Shanann. And he wrote in himself emergency motion for emergency hearing. Franklin Rzucek, interested person in the above case because, Father, I am requesting that take care of her affairs. Some are time sensitive. My reasons are any future issues or said life insurance or the car. Dated September the 27th, 2018, Franklin Rzucek. This shows that on the 27th, September the 27th, a copy of this motion was served to each of the following: Chris Watts, spouse, Weld County Jail. It was mailed to him. Sandra Rzucek and Frankie Jr., mother and brother. It was hand-delivered to them. And Frank Sr. signed it. In the matter of the estate of Shanann Watts, a.k.a. Shanann King, to all interested persons. This matter is scheduled for a telephone hearing on Thursday, October the 4th, 2018 at 9 a.m. The court will address petitioner's motion filed September the 27th, 2018 at that time. The court will permit the parties and attorneys for the party to appear by telephone if they so choose. To participate by telephone at the appointed time, please dial the following court conference number, and after connecting, you will be asked to dial the participant code. A separate inmate telephone appearance request has been submitted to the Weld County Sheriff's Office. I certify that on October the 1st, 2018, a true and accurate copy of the notice of hearing was provided to Chris Watts, Frank Sr., Sandra Rzucek, and Frank Jr. And this goes to show what was put into this file. And it was the decontaminant phone dump and photos of Watts' hands and the photos that we just seen. Okay, now here's the thing. The phone dump, I believe, was probably any calls that Chris made while he was at the jail, and of course they're recorded. So that's probably what was in that. However, we do not have access to that, but we do have access to the photos as you just seen. But the phone dump has been redacted because we don't have that. Okay, going on down. Also, report generated October the 9th. Firestone drone photos of the well site. Firestone drone video of the well site. Initial offense report of Coonrod. James's body cam. And James's photos of the home search. We do have all that. I mean, maybe not all of it, but I know we do have that because we've already seen that. Goodman's phone call with Chris, Dahl's body cam, Walgie's photo of the house search, Goodman's body cam, James's photos, Davis's body cam, and Manley's body cam. Coonrod body cam photos, Coonrod body cam photos, Bella Watts recovery, Shanann Watts recovery, and Celeste Watts recovery. We do not have those. Lyons body cam, the home warrant, Lyons body cam, the dog search, and Lyons body cam, body worn camera. Neighborhood canvas. We have those, but we do not have the recoveries, of course. Okay, October the 2nd, 2018, a supplemental report. This supplemental report was generated for the purpose of creating tag numbers for CDs given to DA investigator Kathy Holscher, nothing further. Okay, moving on down. This is another supplemental report. This is of Brant Manley, October the 4th, 2018. Brad Z. And this is going to be from the Flatirons HD ultrasound. In reference to supplemental report number 631, I would like to add the following pertaining to that report. The email I received from Flatirons HD ultrasound clinic was from a Zach Brick. The original email that was sent from Zach has been attached and his contact information has been added to this report. In reference to the supplemental number 68, the tow driver is identified as Brad Z, unknown date of birth. His contact information has been added to this supplement. Brad took the vehicle to his secure impound and held it there for us. Again, the vehicle was secured with evidence tape, and I did not see anyone enter the vehicle, and the vehicle was secure when it left the scene. Nothing farther, Sergeant Manley. Okay, another supplemental report. This is from Dave Baumover, dated October the 4th, 2018, and the location is the Weld County Jail, pod number 9. The following information was documented at the time it was gathered. The date of this report is not indicative of when the investigations occurred. On October the 4th, 2018, at approximately 1330 hours, I arrived at the Weld County North Jail Complex to witness the Rule 16 collection process of Defendant Watts and take custody of evidence produced as a result of that process. Also present for the collection process were Kathy Holscher and Dan Boyle from the DA's office, Aaron Koning and Kaylee Henson from the CBI Forensic Laboratory, and several deputies from the Weld County Sheriff's Office. Representing Watts was Public Defender's Office investigator Sylvia Martinez. I documented occurrences by approximate time throughout the process, and they are as follows. 14:05 hours, the group described above were present in pod number 9 with Watts. 14:11 hours, a Polaroid of Watts was taken. Okay, I'm not going to go over the hours because it looks like the hours is ranging from 4 1405 until 1440. So I'm not going to go over the hours, but I'm just going to tell you what they did obtain and what is written here other than the hours. Buccal swab samples were obtained. Photos of Watts' hand were obtained. Right hand fingerprints were obtained. Left hand fingerprints were obtained. Watts washed and dried his hands. Right hand impressions were obtained. Left hand impressions were obtained. Watts washed and dried his hands. Right foot impressions were obtained. Left foot impressions were obtained. And Watts washed his feet. Subsequent to the process, I took custody of the evidence collected and transferred it to the Frederick Police Department. Upon my arrival, I put the 3 items into FEPD Evidence Locker number 8. These items will be transferred to the CBI Forensic Laboratory at a later date. Nothing further, Detective Baumover. Okay, and this is going to be Detective Baumover's notes of the times of everything we just have read out. And moving on down, it shows that they have his foot impressions on this one, signed off by Detective Baumover and Aaron Koning. Okay, moving on down, a supplemental report dated October the 7th by Dave Baumover. The following information was documented at the time it was gathered. The date of this report is not indicative of when the investigations occurred. On October the 7th, 2018, I received from Sandra Rzucek via text and Frank Rzucek typed statements generated by both Frank and Sandy. The first page was a typed statement from Frank which described his perception of how Watts was acting differently during June the 21st through June the 26th. Sandy's typed statement followed is a 10-page letter addressed to me. It describes how Shanann and Chris Watts met in 2009 and a broad overview of their relationship over a 9-year approximate period. The statement also describes some dynamic between Shanann and Chris Watts' family. I scanned both Frank and Sandy's written statements into the digital case file and retained the original copies for the physical case file. I also requested a written statement from Sandy regarding the phone conversation she had with Watts on August the 3rd. That statement is pending. Nothing further, Detective Baumover. Okay, this is going to be the note that Frank Rzucek sent to Detective Baumover via fax that he just talked about in this supplemental report. June the 21st through June the 26th. I noticed Chris was acting different with the girls. He was yelling at them, raising his voice with them, which made me look at him like, what are you doing? Also, when Shanann would FaceTime him, which she did every day while she was here on vacation, she would ask him if he was going to pay attention to the girls. He was looking like he was looking at something else. When he came here for the last week of vacation, the girls would not go to him. They would go to Mommy, and he did not like that at all. The look on his face like he was mad at them. I went to the beach with them for the first 3 days, and Celeste would say, "That's my truck," talking about Papa's truck. He said that I have a truck too, and she said, "But that's my truck, you're talking about Papa's." The first night he was strange. He came out and lay on the floor in the living room where I was sleeping on the couch. I was watching TV, and when I shut the TV off, he sat up, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said he had a backache and it would help him. That was strange to me, for him to lay on the floor. Thinking about it, he was acting kind of distant because the girls wanted me more than him. Looked like he didn't care. His mind was somewhere. Frank Rzucek. Okay, coming on down, this is going to be the letter that Shanann's mother sent to Detective Baumover. It says, "Attentive Dave Baumover. In 2009, Shanann built her house in Charlotte, North Carolina, battling her lupus. Her friend told her about her cousin Chris, saying he is a very nice guy, quiet, etc. So, Shanann got a request from him on Facebook. Months later, she called me saying, "Mom, I met a nice guy. He is a mechanic." I said, "As long as you're happy and he's good to you." A few months after that, Shanann and Chris had a family gathering, and Frank, I, and his parents had a cookout. They were floored when they saw her house. Shanann was a hard worker and wanted this to eventually sell and make a profit, to keep doing so, eventually be mortgage-free. She comes from a family of contractors. So Shanann was eager to please his parents, waiting on them hand and foot. When Shanann left the back porch and it was just me and Chris's mom, she leaned over to me and said, "Shanann was married before?" And I said, "Yes, just like your daughter was." Then, a while later, again, when we were alone, and she said, "I just don't see it." I said, "What?" And she said, "I don't feel or see that your daughter loves my son." I knew she was going to be a thorn in the marriage, because my mother-in-law was the same way. So every time we had cookouts, his mom and sister were very quiet and distant. We weren't accepted. They made us know. So forward to the engagement party, Shanann and I shopped for food, wine, etc. Spent a lot. Jamie, Chris's sister, wanted all the invitations so she could help. So Shanann told me, "Mom, Jamie wants to help send the invitations. What do you think? She is accepting me? I'm going to let her do it." So this mom and sister prepped food and cross-contaminated everything, so Shanann couldn't eat any of it. Gluten-free, nothing. Everything was made with gluten. So, thank God I made lots of food I brought. At least my daughter could eat. So as the night went on, Shanann and I went in the bathroom, and Shanann told me, "Mom, I had like 80 invites and only immediate family came." So Shanann called people the next day to learn that they never received an invitation. Shanann was devastated. Shanann and Chris were upset, so they knew not to ask again. Then came the wedding. No one from his whole family came, just his grandmother and uncle. No mom, dad, sister, aunts, and cousins, no one came. Chris spoiled Shanann and vice versa. They were so in love. They were a great team. They moved to Colorado and lived with Shanann's friend for 1 year while they were building their house. Everything was great. Shanann saw something on Chris's private parts that did not look normal. They went to the doctor, cancer, so it was removed. She saved his life. Then Shanann got pregnant with Bella Marie. Everyone was so excited and happy. Shanann and Chris were wonderful parents. Chris and Shanann were working at the Ford dealership in Longmont. Shanann was selling cars. Chris was the head mechanic, a great team. Shanann was top sales. Then Bella came, so Shanann stopped working because of a high-risk pregnancy. She was a trooper through the whole thing. Both families seemed happy. Chris's sister never flew to Colorado at any time they were out there. Cindy and Ronnie came 2 times a year. Shanann worked at Children's Hospital at nights and also sewed 31 bags, which is traveler's bags, on the side. Everything was good. Shanann got pregnant with Celeste, and pregnancy was really rough on Shanann with her lupus. Very high-risk pregnancy again. But only this one was worse for Shanann. Water weight gain, severe back pain, shortness of breath, pains in her chest, fatigue, and exhaustion. My husband and I sold everything but our house and moved out to live with them to help our daughter in every way we could. Frank and I had to work to pay our bills too. We were there for 15 months. Chris's mom came out to watch the girls for a few days while Shanann and Chris went on a business trip with Lavelle, her company. 4 nights, 5 days. During that time, we were not allowed to see our grandchildren or even eat dinner with them as soon as we got home. She brought them upstairs and stayed upstairs. She wouldn't let us hold them or anything. I found that very odd. One day I asked her why, and she said, "What the hell am I here for then?" She screamed in my face in front of my granddaughters and said that I was very controlling. I was just like, wow. I texted Shanann over and over again, and she said, "Relax, Mom. I'll take care of it when we get home." It was ridiculous. I never spoke to Chris's mom again. I'd had enough. After 15 months, I moved back home. It was hard to leave, but I felt it was for the best. I have been home now. 17 months later, my whole family is dead. My beautiful daughter and my beautiful grandchildren all dead. Everything seemed fine. Our daughter never spoke about anything bad. She did speak to us about bankruptcy and a lot of debt with all the medical bills. Bella and Celeste were back and forth to doctors, misdiagnosed for 2 years. I told Shanann they had asthma and that she needed to fire that doctor's. One day she went in and the PA was there and she diagnosed them with asthma. Finally the girls were doing great, other than earplugs put in and the girls being very allergic to tree nuts, which would have caused them death. Celeste was born with her esophagus too small. They went in 3 times to enlarge it. Steroids like crazy to help her breathe for 1.5 years or longer, all until they were diagnosed with asthma, and then Shanann with her neck surgery, which was out of pocket $25,000. They owed. So that's why there was so much debt. I noticed that when we would FaceTime every night for 4 years straight. Looking back, starting late May of 2018, when we FaceTime, Chris was putting the cell phone all over the room, ceiling, floor, etc. And I said, "Chris, are you all right?" And then he would FaceTime normally. Before Shanann came to North Carolina, Celeste had a rash in her private area, and she went to get a face cloth and some cream. Chris had the phone. I said, "Chris, let me see how bad it is," being that I am an aide. So I still couldn't see, so I said, "Wait, let me move my screen," because I couldn't see. He put it right on her privates. Oh, I was mad. Shanann wanted to come for 6 weeks this summer so she can introduce the girls to Chris's sister, Jamie, who had never met Celeste or Uncle Frankie, our son. Before the year started back to school, dance, classes, etc., it was the best time, and it was now. We were thrilled. Shanann stayed the week here and then weekends with Chris's parents. The first weekend was great with Chris's dad and family. However, the following weekend was a different story. Saturday was rough for Shanann. She was protecting her children from peanuts in every form. Ice cream, a bowl full of nuts, and open razor blades just laying around in the house. Shanann called her father, "Come and pick me up now, please." Shanann said Cindy was trying to give the kids ice cream with peanut chips in it. Shanann asked Cindy, "What kind of ice cream is that?" And Cindy said, "Oh, relax, it's just ice cream." Shanann said, "Please, let me read the ingredients." Cindy told my daughter that she was scary. So the girls walked outside to play with Jamie, Chris's sister, their aunt. So after Shanann got done explaining to Cindy how dangerous peanut allergies is to the girls, Cindy ignoring Shanann went outside and Jamie walked in. So the girls walked back in, and as Shanann walked in the kitchen, noticed a large bowl of peanuts now sitting on the table that wasn't there 2 minutes before. So Shanann called me and explained everything. She said, "Mom, I'm being double teamed." And I said, "What?" And she told me everything. But when she told me about the razor blades, I said, "What?" She changed the subject really quick because my daughter knows I would have been there and I would have caused a big scene. I love my family protection. I said, "Dad's on his way." She got home here and was beside herself. I was furious along with her that someone that you trust would try to get a child sick or die feeding them peanuts and razor blades. Shanann told 4 people this: me, Frank, Sandra, Goronda, and Nikki. She called Chris that night and she was so upset. Chris said he will handle it. So Shanann didn't ever go back again to see them. None of Chris's family came to Cece's birthday party, and Cindy sent Cece's package out to Colorado, which is still there in the box at their house. So Shanann and the girls and us had a wonderful time the rest of their trip. When Chris came here for his week here and Shanann's 6 weeks here, Shanann picked him up at the airport with the girls. They were so excited to see their dad that they set off the alarm for running up to him. Chris spent the day with his parents and Shanann dropped him off at the nursing home to see his grandma. Shanann and the girls came back here. Chris was acting really weird to Shanann. He didn't have time to speak to her, and then he was going to stay because we had a storm with no street lights not working. Chris's dad brought him back here to our home. Shanann and Chris spoke on the back porch for a few hours about how he had been, and the peanut stuff, and his mom's house. Chris was distant to Shanann, and with the girls and with us. Shanann was vomiting all night, and Chris didn't get up to see how she was, and this was his wife. They left for Myrtle Beach, and Frank went with them for a couple of days, being that it was our granddaughter's first time at the beach. Frank left them. I came a day and a half. The girls and I had a blast. Chris was very quiet, doing his own thing and ignoring Shanann. I said to my daughter, "Is everything okay?" She said, "Chris is Chris." So we were at the beach and we went to dinner, and Chris drove Shanann and the girls. No rooms, so I drove behind them. I was doing 83 miles an hour to catch up with them and texting Shanann, "Why is he driving like that? Tell him to slow down. I'm not in a race to go to dinner at dinner." At dinner, Chris left the table quite a few times, very silent. He was ignoring the kids and wife. Cece was being very funny, and he walked away again. I left the next day, and they came 2 days later. I asked Shanann to stay here with the girls, and she said Chris has good insurance for the girls, and they went back home to Colorado. I am devastated. P.S. The only reason Chris got bit was because diabetes runs in his family, and Shanann wanted him to live forever. Signed, Sandy Rzucek. So I'm going to stop this video right there. And when we come back, we will be going into Nick Atkinson and Nicole Atkinson. Very interesting stuff. Okay, guys. Thank you all for listening. If you learned anything new, or if you just sit and listen to me read, give us a thumbs up. We would really appreciate it. And until next time, this is Unjustified.